for gathering in this rather informal discussion about the history of theater, our noble profession. Ron Wynn is our moderator for this afternoon, and basically Mr. Wynn is going to be asking this series of theater professionals about our noble profession. At a certain point, we're going to turn it over to our studio guests, some of you artisans of the craft, some of you perfectioners of the craft, and you're going to ask questions to this noble assembly. That's where we are, very noble. And
perfectioners.
Perfectioners. That's why I ain't on the panel.
Are you ready to go?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into Conversations about the Future of Theater, Volume 1. And let me start by saying that I'm a non-theater person, which is interesting that I was chosen to do this by William, because theater is actually probably the only art I haven't covered in 33 years in journalism on a regular basis. But I did have the privilege when I worked on the East Coast for 10 years of seeing a lot of Yale Rep and a lot of Ella Lewis Theater. So I do have, and my ex-wife was and is a member of Carpetbag Theater, so I do have some experience with it and some knowledge of it. And I do have a love of it. I'm just not as much of an aficionado of it as I am of some other things. But that being as it is, I'm thrilled to be on the panel here with 5 people who are far more creative than I am, and we're going to introduce some of them, starting on my left.
I'm Mark Clayton Southers. I'm the founder and artistic director of the Pittsburgh Playwrights Theater Company, and I'm also the artistic director of theater initiatives at the August Wilson Center for African American Culture in Pittsburgh.
I'm Jazz Dorsey, and I'm the founder and dramaturg for the African American Playwrights Exchange.
I'm Barry Scott. I'm the founder and producing artistic director of the American Negro Playwright Theater and the proprietor of the Next Level Arts and Entertainment Mindset in Nashville, Tennessee.
I'm Mark Perry, instructor of speech and theater at Tennessee State University.
Helen Shute-Petaway. I'm an actress, a member of African American Playwrights Exchange, and just a starving artist.
All right. Thank you, everybody. And I guess I'll start this off by just asking you kind of a basic one-on-one question, which is what initially attracted you to theater and what distinguishes it, in your view, from the other arts?
Well, I'll start. I think that I was born an actress. I know that I was. I know that it's my ori, my destiny. As a child, I started taking classes when I was about 7 years old at Caramoo House in Cleveland, Ohio. And prior to that, I did things in the church, you know, as we all do growing up, most of us, and with other organizations and participating in oratorical, excuse me, competitions. But I think just even before seeing theater, I thought of myself as a theater person, even as a child. So I can honestly say that I feel that I was born into it. I know that that is my ori, that that's my destiny, and it went on from there.
Okay. I've been telling stories all my life, to the point my parents called me a great fabricator. You tell no story, boy, right. But I would always come forth with a story, and sometimes I would write the stories down. But theater, I discovered, was the one profession, particularly as an actor, writer, or director, that I could truly express myself and not have to hide behind confines, or be relegated to the confines of any kind of social order. You know, theater gave me permission to be me, and so that allowed me this affinity, and it started early. So that's how I began. That's what attracted me, the ability to be honestly me.
Yeah, well, for me, you know, I didn't start out in theater. I was actually an architect major for about 4 years at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia, and just so happened that I got into a play directed by a guy that Barry knows well, Mr. Daniel Wynn. And I was, you know, like 18, 19 years old, man. He was a graduate student. I was an undergrad. And we did a play called Tell Pharaoh. And once I got into the play, I'd never really done theater before, you know, except like being in 2nd grade. But when I got there and got on stage and got a confidence about something that I could actually do that was well, that was good. Because before that time, I didn't really succeed at architecture, and I was there, but it wasn't really what I really wanted to do. And I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. But when I started to do theater, just this whole thing, man, about telling people stories and lives and so on and so forth, that's what brought me into it. And so he suggested that I go and study at A&T in Greensboro. And so I went down there and I started to study there. And when I got there, I really realized that there was a whole world that I had never even discovered before, and that was at HBCU, because I was at Virginia Tech. And you know, I was kind of lost there. But when I got to A&T, I had professors that were scholars that had done wonderful things and that really gave us a sense of purpose. And H.D. Flowers, for me, was that person. And so once I began to see that there were things that I could do, and, you know, I can get on stage and I can act, but not only that, but you know, really tell a story and be believable at it. And so from there, I went to graduate school. You know, I studied there for 3 years at State University of New York at Binghamton. And from there, it's just been a love, you know, just to really be able to get in there and tell stories and discover people's lives, because that's really what theater is all about. I tell the students all the time, it's about lives, human beings, you know, telling somebody's story. And so that's what really brought me into it. Yeah.
I was exposed to theater probably throughout my whole life, but I wasn't aware of it. I did some stuff in grade school that my mother had to remind me that I did. But so basically, I was asked to be in the high school play as a senior. I was playing baseball, and I didn't think it was a masculine thing to do theater, so I opted not to do it, and I played baseball. So that was an opportunity missed. I didn't think nothing of it. Like the typical folks, you know, who look at theater, the people who don't come to theater, we would like to come to theater because we know that once they come, they'll be moved. I was one of those type of persons. I'm a photographer by trade. I was a photographer for the Country Repertory Theater, and I started doing a little video on the side. And in 1985, I was videotaping Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And I was in the back of the theater with the camera running. And I was on my bag phone. You know, they used to have the bag phones, you know what I mean? I'm back in the theater on my phone, you know, whispering, yeah, you know, this is as soon as this play's over, I'm gonna, you know, you know what I'm saying? And Levy started cussing out God. And during that moment, I froze, and the hairs went up on the back of my neck, or something was back there moving around. And I was like, what the hell? And I didn't know it then, but going back, that showed me that theater had the ability to move people. Because you never heard nothing like that before. Somebody cussing God out, calling God a motherfucker, you know, excuse me. Edit that out, bleep that. And I'm like, wow. And I didn't get into theater right then, but it showed me the power of theater. And then I was sitting at home one day, and my cousin called me, who I once saw in South Pacific, singing in this all-white school, and he was the only brother. And he had the lead, and he had his hair great and all that. And I said, that's some gay shit, you know what I mean? I'm just being honest, you know. You got that, you know what I mean? And he called me saying, man, I'm in a play down the street at the Country 2. I said, oh yeah, I'm in photography. He said, well, they need some more brothers to help read and fill in for people. And I haven't seen him in a while, so I said, I'm gonna come hang, because he's a suburbanite, you know what I mean? And I was from the city, you know, from the hood. So I said, I'm going down and hang out with him. I went down there and I started reading. It was a Rob Penny play called Among the Best. And I read for a role of Buck Leonard, first baseman in the Negro Leagues. And because I have a baseball background, I ended up getting the role, and I played the role, and I ended up doing 12 plays with them over the next 3 or 4 seasons, and really got into theater. Then I went to South Africa with another group doing a show, and I ran the August Wilson there. And my father had died that same year in 1998. And so I got into theater at the age of 30, basically. And I went to August's master class in playwriting and hung out with him afterwards. The week after my father died, I'll wrap this up. The week after my father died, I wrote a letter to my brother, who was like, for some reason, he got away with everything. He was older than me. He got away with everything for some reason. We didn't know what he had on my dad. But because my dad died, I wrote him a letter saying, don't come at me. I can't help you. I can't be helping you out, you know, filling in, taking over where Dad left off. And it was basically that. And I showed it to a friend of mine, Javon Johnson, who was in the play with me. We were doing a play called Blues for Alabama Sky. I was playing Doc, Pearl Cleek play. He said, oh, that's a nice poem. I said, no, that's not a poem. That's a letter to my brother. He said, no, that's a poem. So I started writing poetry the week after my father died, and I showed August Wilson some of it. He said, "Oh yeah, you should write, man. That's good stuff." This is in South Africa, and so I started writing. That's how I got into theater. Well, I was in it as an actor, but that's how I got into writing. And just the ability to be able to be moved and move folks is what really, hit me here. So,
Well, I have to go with Helen that I think I have a theater gene, because from like the age of 6, when they asked that question, what do you want to be when you grow up, I always said I want to be an actor. And there's really no context for that in the way that I grew up. It's not like we went to the theater. We just went to movies and watched television. But I insisted, and it made my family very angry. They thought it was a form of mental illness. And so I actually spent my adolescence in mental institutions, with a brief period where, in fact, I had my first paying job as an actor. And that was fine because I got paid, and my mother got the money, so she was all right with that. But then I got cast as the lead in the school play, and 2 weeks into rehearsal, my mother yanked me out of school and put me back in the nut house. So I graduated high school from a North Carolina State mental institution and went to Chapel Hill, and didn't go near the theater department. I had a phobia at that point. I think I saw one play as an undergraduate, and that was Equus. But I studied German and French, and I just studied dramatic literature. All my courses were dramatic literature. So very last course I took was theater history, and my professor appropriated me, and I became his assistant. And the next thing I knew, I was in New York buying costume materials for a production at the Oslo. And then he transferred to Virginia Commonwealth University, and they were starting a graduate dramaturgy program, but the only problem was they didn't have a student.
So with the Tyler Perry stuff, you can laugh, have a good time, listen to a song or whatever, and go on home, So I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. Actually, you kind of led me into another one. And when I was working in Memphis in the late 80s, early 90s, I remember talking to the guy who promoted, at that time, plays at the Orpheum. And this was back in, I guess, the heyday of, I'm trying to remember the playwright's full name. I think the last name was Garrett. Shelley Garrett. Yeah, this was when Shelley Garrett was at his peak. And they booked. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they were booking those plays on a regular basis in the Orpheum, but they didn't book anything else other than that. And the Mama plays were going pretty good. So I remember asking the promoter, I said, "Why don't you book some dramas?" And he said, "The audience here doesn't want to see drama." This was a white guy that said this. No offense, but this is a white promoter that said this. Okay.
Believe none
Right.
taken.
Okay, but
I'm here to represent the white people.
okay, okay. But a week later, a black DJ on WDIA basically made the same comment on air that he was doing a talk show, and the question came up again, and he said, "Well, black people don't want to see that kind of stuff." So I guess my question to all of you, because as people who are invested in quote unquote that kind of stuff, how do you respond to what I'm sure is still a widely held stereotype?
I think it's ridiculous.
Throughout,
I think that is so absurd. And I remember years ago when Barry and I started an organization with 2 others called Show Productions. And Barry had Black Tie Theater, and we were pounding the pavement in Nashville. We were working 48 hours a day, garnering the shows, producing the shows, building the sets in the basement of Kane Avenue Baptist Church or wherever we could. And we were going around to businesses, and we heard that a lot. Am I right? Black folks don't go to the theater. They don't. What is that? What's the name of the play? It wasn't a musical. It wasn't a black musical.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we heard that, but it hurt my heart. I'm sure it hurt Barry's heart, and we continued. We continued to pound the pavement in this city and to do shows that were out of the ordinary. And each of us has worked with all of the professional companies in this city, and that's one of the reasons why once you get into the theater, once you can get them there, they're going to fall in love. They are going to fall in love, or really, 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 really deep kind of like, you know what I'm saying? And want to go back. May not be a theater subscriber for the season, but once you get a taste of it, then it will get them back in. And that's one reason why I I worked with the Nashville Shakespeare Festival for years and years, and has been, you know, the best Shakespearean actress in the city one year. You know, we've done that, and those same people will come to Shakespeare in the Park and go, oh, they may not understand, but a light bulb would go off. And so I think that in turn, you must teach. Theater has to also teach. It does not just entertain. You must teach, and you must bring up awareness of how relative all theater is, not just Tyler Perry type theater, but how relative all theater is.
But I think that's
classics, standards, just all theater.
But the thing about Tyler Perry is that one thing he's done, even he may not necessarily agree with the stereotypes, he may not necessarily agree with the way the characters behave and act and so on and so forth, but he's opened up opportunities for a lot of actors. And as far as getting audience to plays, you know, you have to really, really begin to reach the children first. Because if you can get the kids interested in drama, then, you know, as they grow up, they'll understand more about it. You know, I teach at Tennessee State, and those kids have never really allowed, but then you find out a lot of them have done plays and have been into shows and whatnot, seen theater. But then a lot of times you got to go ahead on and give them what they're hungry for. And I think that's what you do as an artist, is that you have to understand what your audience needs. And Tyler Perry has found a way to do that. And in fact, he can sell out an auditorium, you know, when you've got other stuff going on that same night, but they will come and they will support him because he is representing them as an audience. He is giving them what they need.
I'm glad we're having this conversation, you know, about future, you know, like, and where do we see it going? I did my first professional show, equity show, in 1985, you know, at Tennessee Repertory Theater. Had a big part. And I think today, as opposed to when I first really started paying attention, because I was a part of it professionally, theater may be more accessible now than it's ever been, you know, because of the internet. And, and when I came on the scene, there were no black theaters really doing anything, and they didn't count what Helen and I were doing. And yes, we got rejections here, there. A lot of more white audiences were more receptive to us, or black organizations that were structured, you know, fraternities, sororities. Not a lot of help from black business owners or black churches even, really. But as I look at the future, in theater, not just black and not just white, it's becoming harder to produce because there's not a lot of money. You know, theaters are struggling. I think we're as viable as we've ever been, but we're not as funded. You know, even in New York, I talked to Woody King, my mentor. You know, he said, I'm trying to find another way to recreate myself, to produce a play, and trying different things. And that's somebody who I call regularly. I'm glad that we're meeting now so we can collaborate, so that we can become sustainable. But as I look at, you know, are we giving the audiences what they need, or are we giving them what they want? You know, I mean, my question is Tyler giving people what they need? Or, because I think what I do is maybe the medicine that we need, but I don't think the audience necessarily wants that. When a black proprietor says, I like what you're doing, but black people don't go to the theater, and I'm black, so I guess I can't go. Right. Even if you give me tickets, because I'm black and black people. And I heard that. I'm gonna say the name, you know, local, you know, business person. That was a justification for not taking free tickets and giving them to his patrons, because black people don't go to the theater, but they go see Tyler Perry.
Yeah. I'm sorry, we gotta go. The brothers go first.
I'll be quick. I just want to say, kind of going back to how theater has changed, in my view, I have to say that it's changed radically in the last 4 years, because on January 1st, 2007, I sent out this email starting the African American Playwrights Exchange, and 2 days later, I had heard from 30 playwrights immediately. And we were talking people like Mark Southers and Terrence Spivey at Karamu and Dr. Henry Miller. I mean, it was astounding. And then within the first couple of months of 2007, I read a stack of scripts by playwrights, some of which went all the way back to the 70s, that no one had ever even read, because there was nowhere for them to send these scripts. Regional theaters didn't do black theater. Black theaters didn't do new black works. So suddenly I'm sitting here with this massive amount of scripts, and I'm really excited to say that a professor at Harvard is doing a script evaluation class and she just accepted 16 scripts from Apex, and that's the
Yes.
body of the scripts that are going to be
Yes.
in her evaluation class. So I was suddenly given a mission that was out of nowhere, and so theater has changed for me because I am now seeing theater from both sides of the mirror of our culture, our country, and I'm seeing the whole thing from the African American perspective as someone looking from the outside. And what I realize is that we have so much recovery work to do in this area. And the scripts that I have read they're not Tyler Perry, they're not gospel plays, they're not Black History Month plays, they're just really great
Are they
stories.
plays to be read? Are they plays to be performed?
Oh, they're plays to be performed.
And who has the wherewithal to perform them or to produce them? Because people want to produce things that bring revenue.
Well, you know what? That is not that's not where I'm at as a dramaturg. I mean, we've done 40 new play readings in 3 years, and all in New York, all I have to do is
And again,
hand a
I'm
script
saying the
over to
reading
an
of the
actor.
play versus the producing of the play.
Well, yeah, I understand that's kind of a standstill. I don't know how to answer that because
Well, it still goes back to the age-old foundation of theater and getting things produced. You need angels. You need theater angels.
Right.
You need backers. And you have all of these wonderful scripts, but you may be Poe broke as a joke and can't do anything about it with all of this talent and with these words that are there. But what you need are monies, of
And
course.
you need
in order to
organization as well,
produce.
because
yes.
you can put up a great show, but if your marketing is not really good,
Right, so
you're
you've
not
got
gonna
to
have
have it
people in the
all. The
seats.
business plan.
Yeah,
still.
the first play, I'm sorry. I'll go ahead. You got the Tyler Perry thing out, so you
Well,
gotta wait,
I-
you gotta wait a while
This is
now.
what boggles my
You
mind.
gotta wait 20 minutes at least. Oh, there you go.
This is what boggles my mind about the whole thing with Tyler Perry. I mean, you can say what you want to say about him,
Oh,
but
I
the
give
guy,
him
but the
props.
guy took a videotaped stage play that was like raw, unedited in some cases. You know what I'm saying? And they would break character. Of course, we all know what theater etiquette is and how to do things in theater, the formality of it. But the guy was able to take those plays that he videotaped. They were not even done in a studio in Hollywood, and make millions. You know, but all
what's
I'm saying-
what's the biggest theater here in this city?
Tennessee Repertory.
How many seats is it?
Now that's interesting, phenomenal.
Well,
Biggest
you can't
theater.
feel it.
They started in 1100 seat
What's the
theater.
biggest seat theater you got?
The
The
Jackson
Jackson
Jackson.
Theater.
Jack, how many seats is that?
3,500.
3,500. I can pack that house. I can pack it with a week of advertising, and I will give out free crack, and all the crackheads will be there, and it'll fill the place up. You understand my point? It doesn't. I mean, if the product is crack, you're gonna have crackheads. I'm sorry, I'm telling the truth here.
Yeah.
And that's my point. My point is this. My point is this, and I'm trying to be blunt about it.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah,
I'm
be
being
blunt.
very
Yeah.
blunt about it, because I got my own theater, so I don't have to worry about nobody. But I understand the fact that him giving folks work. And I like that. I used to hate on it, just like a lot of people hate on the whole thing. I like the fact that he's building stuff and putting people to work on TV and stuff and Atlanta and all that. But when it comes to theater, the problem that I have is that it's problematic for people who are practitioners of the art because there's no art to it. And that's a strong thing to say, but here's what we have to look at. I got myself, because listen, let me flip it a little bit. There's white plays, church ladies in the basement, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Right.
And if folks go see that, won't go see some Shakespeare. The point I'm making is that we have to stop thinking because of watching TV and watching all the commercials and all the stuff that we see Caucasian rule stuff on TV. We've been brainwashed to think that all black folks are in one pot. We're
Right.
bigger than that.
Oh yeah, but
So let me finish. So we can't get mad at what Tyler Perry's doing,
No.
but it don't represent all theater. It's a segment of theater. Well, it's not the type of theater that I do. I'm not hating on it. I'm saying it is what it is. But we have to think about our theater, the stuff that brings you joy and what you do. That doesn't bring me joy. You know, listen.
Right.
Listen, I have a play that was published in the book of Best Black Plays. All right? And there's 3 plays. It was published in 2007. I've had 2 productions since 2007 of it. I don't push the stuff, but the book's out there.
Right.
Now, Tyler Perry's play ain't in no book of best black plays, but he might have a Mercedes at the crib, you know.
Right.
And so the thing is that it sounds ridiculous for me to say I wouldn't want that type of career. Who wouldn't want to be, you know, make money off what they do? But that's not where the art is. That's not where the heart is. But the point I'm making is that just like white folks have different levels of theater that they go to, so do we. And we can't put it all in one pot together because it's not the same.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
and
what I'm
that-
saying. I'm trying to really.
Well, if I just
If I
let
could
me
just
briefly,
respond. Okay.
that's a good
I'm
point, Mark.
sweating over Tyler Perry.
And I just want to, and I just want to make the point that I don't personally have anything against Mama Plays or Tyler Perry or Shelley Garrett. Well, I've seen about 10 of them. I don't. I'm for variety and diversity thematically, and that's where that's why I asked the question of the promoter in Memphis back in '88, and I still ask the same question today because the point you just made, I think, is the critical point. When you talk about film, you talk about TV, you talk about theater, and you talk about white Americans. They have just a kaleidoscope of choices. So that if you don't want to see The Hangover, you can see X, Y, Z. But when it comes to us, the thinking in some circles is
very nice.
comedies, and that's pretty
But
much
we
it.
do have a
Gospel
plethora,
plays.
so now you
Yeah.
are aware
Yeah.
through Apex. I mean, alone
Right.
with just
Yeah.
all of the hundreds of scripts that we have garnered, all of the hundreds, but a couple of hundreds, the scripts that we have garnered show that there is a
enough.
plethora.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
some of everything, something
Yeah.
for everybody.
And there should be room
And
for all of that to be
exactly, and
presented,
it's
and the people ought to have a
art.
chance to see it.
For instance, there's
time out. We need to just take through this thing real quick. Ron, now we're at a good point. And I love the discussion. It's going beautifully. But now, Ron, I'd like you, if they have any questions, to say if there's any.
I mean, I don't get to go through all the rest of mine.
y'all
Very
roll.
questions.
Y'all
No,
roll.
that's all.
And I need to-
I'm just kidding. I'm
Well,
just
really,
kidding.
one
Go ahead.
point I
Go
just
ahead.
really wanted to make real quick
Yeah.
about what Mark was saying earlier. You know, I've been in theater for like a long time, and I consider myself a trained performer, someone who can act and direct. And I appreciate the art of theater. But, you know, we have to be real. You know what I'm saying? The most important thing is like Shakespeare. Shakespeare didn't write for the upper class, the aristocracy. He wrote for the common people. He wrote in a way that they could basically understand and get what he was trying to give them. It's the same thing with Tyler
I
Perry.
think some woman wrote some of them plays, but that's
You know what,
what
man? People keep talking about
I
that.
think
But the
so.
most important thing is that the literature is there.
You know, here's something.
Hey, you know what? It's like talking about Jesus being black. What's the most important thing about Jesus? His color or what he did in life? Same thing with Shakespeare. Whether the man
know
was
we
black,
are.
white, or
We
whatever,
are.
it's the literature.
We know we are.
Check this out.
Yes.
Tyler Perry reinvented theater in a sense, and I think if we're going to survive, you know, in this economy, we have to reinvent ourselves to give people what they want, and at the same time present what we feel. I mean, I saw Tyler Perry's show. I said, that's not strict theater. I saw vaudeville.
Right.
I saw gospel musical. I saw, you know,
It's a-
variety
it's a
show.
bullet base.
It was a lot of things that people liked, and I use a lot of soundtrack in my theater now because people, they like a soundtrack. I try to make my shows shorter if I can, pick shorter shows
Right,
Span.
right.
for the attention span. So I think Tyler, it was something brilliant about what he
Sure it
packaged
was.
and presented. And what's not our cup of tea may not be necessarily what Tyler does. But we do need medicine so that we can survive. So we need to take
I
the
think we need
medicine
it
of.
all. I think we
yeah.
need
You
it
got to have
all. I
it
think
all.
that the community needs it all.
I want to
There
feed
is
my
a
family,
segment.
and I don't want to work at UPS. You know, I want to travel, you know, and give things to my family and to the people around me who I love, and be able to show them things and say, this is how you do it, son. I want to take my daughter and say, this is how you manage your accounts, sweetie. You know, what is it you want to do with your life? I want to let her be able to do that and survive. And fortunately or unfortunately, my medium is theater arts. I'm not that smart. You know, I'm very passionate. So I will make some compromise, you know, and not be a purist, you know, say theater has to be done this way. I want people, I want to share it. I just don't want to tell the story to myself and to people who agree with me. You know, I really want to heal. You know, I want
Right.
people to feel.
Right.
You know, so if they're not feeling me, then why should I complain?
Well, I guess the issue is there's theater out there. There's a lot of plays out there that can do that. It's just getting the folks into the seats. is what it is.
That's the most important
Yeah.
thing.
I was driving down here and the
Yeah.
Tyler Perry commercial came on. My new play, Tyler Perry. We don't know nothing about what the play's about, but people's already on the
Oh,
phone.
right
You know what I
Yes,
mean?
yeah.
Doing that. So I think what it comes down to is the venue, and do we have to ask the white man for permission? Sorry about that, man. It's just,
Well,
you know, the white man's ice is always colder. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Do we have to ask the? I'm lucky to be in a position where I have my own space. I don't have to ask for permission, and I'm also at the
That's
August
a
Wilson
blessing.
Center where we have a
That's a blessing.
we have a
That's what I
CEO.
want.
We have a CEO who is all about the community, and he doesn't care whether we make money off of ticket sales or not. He cares about our community coming in and being involved. And we listen. I said, look, you know, we just did this play. I said, you know, we need to put a couple little comedy hooks on this little radio ad. He's like, no, we don't. You know, we're not going to go that route. And you know, I said, okay, because my thing is, if I know if I get X amount of people in the house, I can pretty much do whatever I want, theater-wise. But he's like, nah, we're gonna do it what the play calls for. You know, I had a sound designer work on my last play, and you know, we had our production meetings and we talked about the sounds and stuff. And during the tech, you know, the guy comes in, he's a military guy, comes in, and the soundtrack, you made me think of this, the soundtrack goes dum 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 dum, and all the actors stops and say, what the hell is that? You know, you know what I mean? And he's back in the booth, he's like, what? I'm like, you didn't tell me about that, man. You know, so I didn't want to, you know, this brother was trying to do his thing, you know, he's a designer, you know, and he's in-house, he's one of my co-workers. So I said, well, just turn it down a little bit, bring it down just a little bit.
Did you wind up using it or did you cut it?
I let him go with it because I'm trying to be a team player. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be a team player.
What
And,
was wrong with
but-
that? I don't think- What was wrong with it?
Because there wasn't nothing like that throughout the whole play.
It was, that could be jarring.
It came out of nowhere. You know
Okay, you want to open up before we even go ahead?
Yeah.
Any good questions? And just real quick, Mr. Perry, thank you so much for everything you're doing. My name is William Dixon. I love to be on one of your TV programs. Just waving from all the criticism. Thank you. Any other,
Wow.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Hold on, you got a
You were
lint
not
brush?
kidding.
I'm gonna clean his tongue off here. Anybody got a lint brush out there? No.
Y'all have any questions for the panel?
You know, there's something that goes with kissing butt. It's called sucking toes.
Wow.
Somebody told me that
I got some Clorox wipes out in the truck.
3 letters. House of Pain, 3 years syndication. No, I'm kidding. Y'all have any questions for the panel?
I think the interesting thing about this discussion is that this is an age-old discussion. Booker T. Washington, W.E. Du Bois had the same
Yes,
discussion.
sir.
Cass Elliot, where you are the talented tenant. And I think the reality is that there's something called style and substance. And there was a book that came out a few years ago about it. And I think a lot of times intellectuals have a difficult time putting a priority on style. And people, especially black people, really get into style in a lot of ways in that presentation. And I think there's a simplicity, but there's also brilliance to that. And we have to figure out how to market in a way that Mr. Perry and other people have these other kind of shows. I think there's a, you know, to go along with Mark's point, is that there's a way to market sophisticated intellectual shows and do it in a way that people actually can see themselves in those performances. They can hear, there's a brilliance in how to listen to the rap music, whatever people are listening to. I don't care if it's, you know, if it's a Waka Waka song, whatever it is that they're listening to. What are these brothers able to do that we're not able to do when people actually feel these seats? And I think that William and I actually did that with Generational Curses to an extent too. We had to find a way to pinpoint the way the average person, you know, the way they see themselves in theater or see themselves in film. That doesn't necessarily mean the film itself is going to be exclusively about those things, but you got to get them there. And that's the thing. That's the reality behind it. I think there's so many brilliant shows out here, but how do you get butts in seats? You know, even if we have theaters, even if we have our own film house, we still have to figure out how we can get people actually there.
And it's so powerful. I think that's a phenomenon. Marketing. I don't think there's any such thing as an average person. You know,
Right.
even in a family. You know, even in an organization, and that becomes, if someone in the group has influence. If I can tell someone who can tell 10, who has influence over 10, those people may come.
Right.
So I struggle.
Well,
you know.
Yeah, the way I look at it is, it's real simple. It's real simple, actually. We make it complex because we're always thinking of how can we conquer it, but it's really simple. You have to look at the structure and the makeup of the world. If you go to the airport, who do you see at the airport? If you go to a football game in the crowd, who do you see in the crowd? I equate that to marketing. If you go to a professional football game, 98% of the people, other than on the field, are white. If you go to the airport, 70% of the people are white, and 25% of the people are foreign. The point I'm making that is that economics play a big key. Yeah, we'll spend money to go see Tyler Perry plays or whatever, but that's every once in a while. White folks are used to buying subscriptions to theater. They take their kids. They're used to it. It stays in the family. Stiller season tickets stay in the family. And take all those hostilities and bury them and do what we like to do. And I'm not saying give up on trying to get folks in the seats, but that shouldn't be, other than the producers, that shouldn't be everybody else's problem. Because I see actors saying, "Oh man, you know, how many comps can I get?" You know, and
Now, are you focusing? Are you saying? Are you saying go after a white audience? Because part of me is hearing that.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry if it's coming across that way.
No.
What I'm saying is we can't expect to have full house. It takes a little bit from here, and here to get a nice house. Now we've all had nice houses when we had a really great show, and it's word of mouth. It's that same type of word of mouth that pulls folks in from all over the place. Like if you had a hot show that's doing real good, it's a word of mouth. We're a word of mouth people. You know, we enjoy. Absolutely. We don't want to be left out. Oh, you got to go. You got to go check this out. You're not going to get that for every show. You might get that once a season. You'll get it with your musicals. You know what I mean? Because folks know they're going to have a good time. The point I'm making is that we get frustrated.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of frustration comes out because we've got passion for what we do. And who wouldn't want to get paid like Tyler Perry or whatever? You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
It's a phenomenon.
You know, it is what it is. But we have to look at different ways. We have to go to social media. We got to do all kind of ways to get people in, but we can't get frustrated about it. But one thing I want to talk about is comps. You know, because you know the more you give away free, folks ain't gonna never pay. You know what I'm saying? Right. So that's something I wanted to see.
Go ahead, William.
Tamiko Robinson is a local actress in the area that does a show called Miracle in Rwanda, and it was one of the most emotionally wrenching experiences I've had in a long time. She was very good. She was fantastic.
Best Nashville Award winner.
Yeah. She's in the audience too. And but one of the things about that, and I've debated, deliberated this with you, Ron, and Barry, is when I saw Miracle in Rwanda, it really dramatized stuff that I'd already read about. Okay, people don't know that Tamiko's a single mom, but you know what's even crazier? People don't know that they killed all those Africans in Rwanda when Bill Clinton was president. Mark, I really understand what you're saying. And I get worked up about it because my mom was a single mom and she did all this stuff for me. And the only thing at the end that I could really give her was what I'm doing now, and she can't even really see it. How can we make what the sacrifice that Tamiko's doing and what you do, Barry, and Playwright do? How can we make that sacrifice a reality so people who need to see it? Because if I don't know what Rwanda is, and we can make a lot of illusions. Oh man, everybody knows what Rwanda is. Everybody knows what Africa is. A lot of people don't even know what this stuff is, let alone that they're killing folks. They don't even know Rwanda exists. How do we sell it in a way that we can get these, like you said, the ordinary man, the people who don't have an education to come out? Because when I go to Tyler Perry stuff, I see people who feel like nobody's talking down to them. Now they'll work every day. The post office guys, the janitors, the truck drivers. But when I see art, real theater, I see a bunch of people that went to TSU, a bunch of people at Fisk. Now they're just as poor as anybody else because they got a master's degree. They feel like they got to get 2-3 cars, 4-5 houses, and they can't pay for nothing. But the post office man, he works every day and he just works. And they have discretionary income. But we don't speak to them. We speak to the Jack and Jill crowd, the bourgeoisie, the African Alpha sort of.
Well, that's what makes Tyler Perry so important is that he's not necessarily talking to like the upper class.
Yeah.
The pulse of everything that happens in art does not come from the rich or the middle class. It comes from the street.
Yeah.
If you feel the pulse of what's going on, all the music, hip hop, jazz, the
Yeah.
blues, R&B, everything. It even goes back to Pigmeat Markham, Moms Mabley. These people didn't talk to everybody up here. They talked to their folks. And once you can capture the black folk, and I mean, I ain't talking about, like I said, the folks with the money. I'm talking about people who, like you say, work every day, do it, but they want to see themselves on stage. That's the bottom line.
Well,
They want to
I
see
kinda-
themselves
I
on
kinda
stage.
disagree.
And August Wilson, actually,
That's what I want to talk about. I mean,
but
I
hold
can't
on real quick,
disagree.
Mark, because August Wilson captures the same thing. It is no different.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't understand if I'm coming across saying, you know, I'm talking to the Jack and Jill crowd. That's not what I'm talking to. When I say real theater, I say it's probably not the best word to use, but I want you to understand what I'm talking about. August Wilson wrote his first 9 plays. The only play he wrote that really dealt with the middle class, upper class, was Radio Golf.
Right.
You know, but all the other plays deal with the common man. And the point that I'm making is that that's the difference in theater, and it's both the common man. The point that I'm making is that his plays aren't advertised with comedy. There's a lot of comedy in August Wilson plays. There's a lot of comedy. It's human nature comedy and stuff like. It's not one-liners or whatever.
Right.
It's the common man's existence. And the thing is that they don't play those up on the radio when they advertise them.
But I think that you have to do that then.
Well, yeah.
You have to do that. I mean, because I love August Wilson.
Right.
Now, August Wilson to me is one of the greatest playwrights ever, and
Right.
I teach him every semester. But the thing is that once the people get into it, see, they look at Tyler Perry as being one thing, but they look at real theater, or what you call real theater, as being something different. But
Right.
what they don't understand, and this is why it's good to teach kids, because once you show them what's going on, you let them see August Wilson, you let them see his philosophy behind history, behind culture, mores and manners, and how black folks really interact with each other.
Right.
You know, in a real sense of that, and how we were brought up. And when I saw Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, of course, Ma Rainey, I bought an album by Ma Rainey ages ago before I even heard about this play. But just to know about the culture and the blues and the history of it. But I think that he captures it. He just does it. It's a thin line
Right.
between that, what he's
I'm
doing,
not-
and what Tyler
I'm
Perry's
not.
doing.
I'm
We just
not
have to find a way
battling.
to bridge
I'm not
that
going
gap.
with this Tyler Perry, August Wilson battle. I kind of laid it out earlier. Is that we're bigger than just one audience, and that's the point I'm trying to make. We're
But I
more
think-
than just one audience.
But that audience is what you have to capture. Because
What is
those
that
are the
audience?
people-
What is the
Well, you know,
audience?
I tell you, man. when
It's
I
a
was-
different audience.
But it
But-
seems to me, and forgive me, I mean, I have
just a
zero
different
knowledge
audience.
compared to you
It's
two
the
guys.
same audience.
But it seems to me that there should be,
Guaranteed.
that the struggle should be to get an appreciation for both of those. And it
Right.
seems-
All I'm saying is, if you get that same audience into an August Wilson play, they'll be moved. The question is, how do you get them into the audience? But you have to understand it is a different audience.
I
You
would
can't
agree
say it's the
that
same
It's not
audience.
the
It's
same
not the
audience,
same
but what's
audience.
parts, it's different parts.
You would like it to be the same.
No, the reason I say that is because I used to work as a bartender, you know, and I remember when they brought Tyler Perry's play into town, and I was bartending that day, and everybody came in who was going to the play,
Right.
and it was some of everybody. Most of them were people who had real good jobs, doctors, lawyers, whoever it was, they happened to be there, but they go to church and they do so on and so forth. But the church is what really makes him popular because he's speaking to those common people about common values. All theater
I'm not-
began with the ritual. That's what
I'm
and
not.
it has
I'm
to
not
do-
saying
but
that the
but
black
all I'm
folks are
saying is that-
seeing
but the-
August Wilson or
But the
or
audience, the
links
people
and
that you are
stuff like
trying, the
that.
people that Tyler Perry is trying to reach, is the same people that August Wilson is representing.
well,
He
listen,
represents us
we-
as people in his plays, which is what
I
I
want
love
to
about August
let me
Wilson.
tell you a story real quick. At the Pittsburgh Playwrights, our very first production was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. And August came and saw it. After the show, it's sort of like this, but it's a thrust instead of proscenium. And after the show, he came on stage, talked to the actors and stuff like that. And I said, August, I said, listen, I said, how do we get our folks in here to see the shows? He said, man, you know, we did a play. We had to write a play. Me and Ron, we wrote a play called Superfly. They took the movie and they made a play off of that. He said, and the house was packed. He said, but then when people were leaving out, we were giving them flyers for a play that they wrote from their heart to come back and see. He said, it's a constant struggle. So it's a different audience that shows up. You know what I mean? It's a different audience that shows up. It is. I mean, it's just, I know it. I know it for a fact. At least in my city, it's a different audience.
So then, in your city, then who would you consider your audience? For example, if you do a Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, who actually comes to see it?
Who act?
I mean, what demographic of people will come to see the play?
I mean, it's a black and white audience.
Okay.
It's a black and white audience. The point that I'm trying to get is that we want to get the folks in. How do we get them in? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying,
I think if you go to the radio station and you do an August Wilson play, and he's got, I mean, the language is so beautiful in itself, you don't have to do anything, just drive. If you let your actors go on 101 The Beat, Jams, 92Q,
we've done
and
that.
they do a spot, maybe, I mean, something in the story. See, because the thing is that August Wilson is going to capture you. It's a story.
Right.
And a story within a story. These
You're
people
not going to
that's
still.
struggling.
You're still not going to get that same audience. We don't get that audience for an August Wilson play if you have somebody like Lamont Rucker in the play. You know, you have somebody with a name in the play. Then you'll start getting more folks that can identify. Oh, I saw him on, you know, Barbershop. You know what I mean? I saw him in this. Then they'll come see the show. That's just the reality of it, man.
Okay, we got a
At
couple,
least in Pittsburgh, at least for one friend.
we got a couple of audience questions. Here and then.
There's so much that came up when my question popped up. I want to make a statement, and then I was going to ask a question if that's okay. My statement is that I'm not a rich black person. I don't even consider myself part of the middle class, really, because I don't make that kind of money. But I'll go see, I've been to see Tyler Perry before. Kind of expensive tickets to me, you know. And I've been to see other things, and I'll take a limo, you know, to see Tyler Perry if somebody pays for it. I mean, I would gladly, I wouldn't mind, but that's just not my economic situation. You know what I mean? I would love to dress up and go see it, but at the same time, you know, if somebody pays for it. So it's just one of those things where economics stands in the way, and I have an appreciation for all theater. You know, I like all kinds of stuff. You know, I like to see what everybody's doing and how to get it out. My question is we're talking about getting people in the seats, and we're talking about, you know, the state of theater. You know, this whole thing's about the state of theater, right? State of black theater, am I correct? Or just theater, period? I want to know well, I see these powerful minds on stage, and I'm thinking in my mind, like, well, I'm thinking together and do something together. You know, and one thing I don't see in a lot of black anything is people of power or in power getting together to create more power.
Ashe.
So I wonder, you know,
Bless you.
can somebody speak to that?
Well, you know, Barry Scott is doing it. You know, Barry Scott with this, I mean, we're sitting right here in a spot, the next level that Barry Scott has been doing. And, you know, I used to work with Barry over at Tennessee State, and the guy has been working and doing things in theater for years. You know, and sometimes it is a struggle because it's hard to get people to be on board with you if you do like the regular stuff. Sometimes you have to do things to get people in the seats, and then hopefully if you get them there, then maybe they will see something else. You know, I understand what you mean, man. When you hand them stuff to come to the next show that you're doing, it's a regular play, but they don't necessarily get involved in that. You know, I really think it starts in the home. We've educated our kids in other kinds of ways nowadays, and so they don't really want to sit down and hear a story. But I think there are people, Helen, Will Jenkins, they're the ones that are doing it. You know, all these guys in here are doing it in some way or another, but like you say, it's just a matter of just got to keep on driving. You just got to keep on going and push it.
If we could get together and have success because we came together, I think we could create more consensus to go into the future.
Right.
Where we don't have models like that, where we've collaborated and agreed. You know, usually we collaborate, we fall out.
Right, and that's what I'm saying.
Because it becomes a competition about opinion. You know, my opinion is what counts. My opinion is right. They're all opinions. You know, I don't know who's going to show up. But at Tyler Perry, I think everybody goes to Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
And now he got movies and white people are buying his stuff.
Yeah,
I see the bourgeoisie, you know, at the Tyler Perry shows. But the people from the street don't go to the Wilson shows. The bourgeoisie will go to the Wilson show. So is it the marketing?
I think it has a, well, you know what, I hate to say it, but it's hard to tell because you would think it was the ticket price, but Tyler Perry's
that's not
price
it.
is as high as
Yeah,
that.
higher.
You know,
They will buy the money for that.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
saying.
They will go in.
Yeah.
They might not
We got
want to sit
questions.
next to
Okay,
the white
we
people.
got 2 questions over here. So
I can have a question,
Yeah.
comment. My first comment is that I think it's past the Tyler Perry thing. I remember my first professional show that I can ever remember seeing. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and my grandmother raised me, and so she took me to TPAC, and it was some show, Ain't No Other Man, something like that. And you know, she said I sat there stoic the entire time, and you know, afterwards she asked me if I liked the show, and you know, and I said yes, and because it was just something about seeing somebody that looks like on the stage. But then, you know, once I grew up and I started doing the same thing, during this last show that I did here, Miracle in Rwanda, it was different because there wasn't, we didn't have a specific audience. Like, people trickled in and out, like literally. I can count a house of one person, you know, and then, you know, of course the free nights is packed out, but the people, that show ran for 100 days, not consecutive, but it ran for 100 days, and even the people who came to see it and that were touched, it still didn't, you know, they left and, you know, they with tears in their eyes, but it still didn't build up, you know, what I thought it should have been. It didn't reach the community that I thought it should have touched. And I just think that, you know, it's so disheartening to feel that as an artist and to see that. And I have a question. How do you grab a generation and hold on to these things and build on that? Because I know actors who, you know, they didn't go to school, and, you know, I didn't learn everything that I know. I learned less than half of what I know about the theater world or acting or whatever when I was in school. And it, like, how does that translate, like, from, you know, August Wilson, and, you know, and even before him and others like him, how do we get that to now and, you know, and to the future? How do we carry that on?
I think, first of all, I think that we talked about this earlier, that it's really disheartening to put up a great show and not have the support of the community. And I don't want folks, I'm going to answer your question, but I don't want folks to think that I think that the Tyler Perry is just one segment of the community. You know, it represents a bunch of different folks in the community, so I'm aware of that. And but what I think it really comes down to, having somebody with the same passion that you have for the stage and that you have as a producer, having somebody with that same passion in marketing. Reaching out to these groups and organizations, and not just sending them something in the mail or giving them a phone call, but going to the churches, asking to speak with their committees, and somebody that's really driven. And then the people they reach out to have a passion for it as well. And this is, you know, this is a dream, basically, because we all wish it can happen. We know this is what needs to be done, but I don't think we get that. I think there's organizations that, you know, a white theater company will do a play by Terrence McKelvey or whatever, what's his name, you know, the guy I'm talking about. They'll do a play, and they'll have a black organization fill the house up, and folks will get dressed up and go out. It's the same type of thing that happens. They'll go support that show in volumes, a couple hundred people. But I think it's a disrespect when it comes to, you know, black theater, small theater, that they think it's below them to do that same type of support. Right. And we have to knock that wall down. We have to have some people that represent us, that you know, in those communities and folks, and even in the community, in the local communities. You have to
haven't developed that advocacy.
Right. We have to have that.
Developing
we
artists,
have to have those supporters.
Arts management types.
Right.
You know, we're not developing that, or even we don't know how to cultivate it. Even when someone steps up and says, "I'm available," but they lack the ability.
Well, what happens a lot of times is that you get people, they'll come see you in the show, and they'll be out there in the lobby, and they'll say to Barry, "I really enjoy this. What can I do to help?" And because they figure they're doing you a favor, if they run into a brick wall, they'll give up. Well, I was just helping out, you know what I mean? Right. We have to pay folks to go out and do this job to get it done, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I'm sorry. I almost forgot my question, but I hate to drill the Tyler Perry situation in the ground, but I was actually at a conference not too long ago with like a bunch of white directors, the director from Blind Side, Sex and the City, things like that. And one of their jokes was, buffoonery or not, Tyler Perry was talking to a certain crowd that wasn't being talked to.
I still don't see. I work in a black arts organization, and I still see. To me, it's like the community, we're struggling. The next black arts organization is struggling. The next one is struggling. So to me, it seems like, well, why don't these three struggling organizations get together and take the little bit that they have to make a little bit more? You know,
It's the crabs and it's the crabs in the barrel mentality. You know what I mean? If you think about Wesley Snipes in New Jack City, I hate you, pretty motherfucker. You know what I mean?
That's a great line, though. That's a great line.
It's the crabs in the barrel mentality, and then, like I say, it goes back to slavery days. You know, the house they in the field. Excuse me, the house person and the field person.
Something that occurred to me, though, that we haven't tried yet, I think we need to do this, guys. Door-to-door theater salesman. Okay, we got to get acting teams together and send them out door-to-door and knock on the door and say, we're theater salesmen, we're going to come in and do a scene for you in your house, okay, so that you can see what we do.
I think we should explore, you know, that may be an extreme, but I think that we should explore, you know, things like that. People, you have to think outside the box.
Outside the box.
No one is willing to.
We talked about doing that, and what happens is that, and my wife tells me this all the time, you know, you can't keep getting disappointed because folks don't have the same passion you have for it. You know what I mean? And what happens is we'll sit in the room right now and say, okay, everybody, Monday we're going to knock, and we talked about doing this, knock door to door. I told him, I said, my ensemble, I said, everybody get 2 people, bring 2 people, we're going to do this here. And guess what? It has to go through a meeting. Phone call, emails, and get it all organized, and then before you know it, the snow's falling on the ground. Nah, I ain't going, it's too cold now, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
I kind of have the same mindset as Ronnie. Kind of like I kind of feel that there's room for a lot of different types of things in theater. So I try not to be judgmental. I know what I like and what I'm drawn to, and I'm more drawn to August Wilson than I am Tyler Perry. But there are certain things that I have watched the Tyler Perry play and laughed my butt off. You know what I'm saying? So I can appreciate both. But one thing I think the difference is, I'm from last night when we were at the Maxwell House. Francine was like, "Do you come from a performing family? You do so much theater?" No, nobody in my family is an artist.
Mine either.
No acting.
Join the club.
Okay, so
They don't come to my brothers don't come to my place.
Hello.
Let me make my point though. My family doesn't even know. This is embarrassing, but my family doesn't even know who August Wilson is.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, but they
That's
know who
not
Tyler Perry
embarrassing.
is. I watched the Tyler Perry film, and I watched the director's commentary of good films and bad films that I watched.
Oh, yeah,
I watched the director's commentary of the Tyler Perry film, and he talked about how Lionsgate made him put his name in the credits so many times that it was almost embarrassing for him.
Wow.
But it was a branding thing.
You know, that fact says more than just one thing.
Yeah.
That fact alone says a lot of things. And we make a mistake when we say, because of that knowledge and that fact, it means this. It doesn't mean one thing. It means a lot of things.
Exactly.
You know, and that's where we fall out, because we say, it's this, no, it's this, it's this. And while we're debating over what it is, we're not moving forward. We're not coming together.
Right.
Let me ask this question.
What you gonna say?
I just want to say, my point that I was going to make is that my daughter, she's going to grow up seeing Tyler Perry films and plays because they're everywhere around my mom's house and her mom's house and everything. But I think we have to do our job to make sure that in addition to that I hope she can have an appreciation for Tyler Perry, but we have to do our job. I have to do my job to make sure that she knows who and August Wilson.
I think we need to back August Wilson. I mean, as a black theater artist, I've always wanted to see myself on stage, and that's the only reason I started a theater company. I love theater, but I didn't see me. I didn't see anyone that looked like my father, like my grandfather. And then when I see Wilson's plays, how do we support that and market it? If you have to get some one-liners, I want my ham or whatever it is from a Wilson play, that can draw people in.
Sure.
I think it's more,
How do we commercialize
it's
it
more so than the
without apologizing?
one-liners now. It's that branding. It's Tyler Perry. How this is Tyler? Because I think his last couple of shows he wasn't even in them.
Right.
And people would come out of there saying, "Yeah, it was cool, but Tyler wasn't in it." People was like felt left down. You know what I mean?
That's
You know,
true.
So they
That's
went
the
home
downside
and
of
watched.
the
They went
upside.
home and watched Big Mama's House on TV.
Yeah, well, he's actually trying as an actor to get out of I mean, he's in all kinds of different things. He's in the playing Alex Cross in the James Patterson film that's coming up.
Oh, is he really?
You tell on yourself.
What's that?
I've been studying.
What can I say? Go ahead, William.
Real quick, I know you run the theater company, Barry, you run the theater company a long time. You're big advocates for education. Reeves and I, when we went to Georgia Middle School a long time ago, we did went on a field trip, and this guy was going to do this Martin Luther King thing. And so, the first thing we were thinking is, oh my God, Martin Luther King, this is going to be the hardest thing in the world. And the thing that's amazing about it is because, in Nashville, if you are doing forensics and doing speech contests, you do Martin Luther King. So I was doing I Have a Dream at every given occasion. My mother, my single mom, I had to do I Have a Dream all the time. Like, William, do I Have a Dream? So I was doing I Have a Dream to death. So when we went to see this play at TPAC, it was amazing because this cat that got up and did this Martin Luther King thing, he did this policeman. He did Martin Luther King. He did everybody. He did like Kenny's Lightning. It was amazing. And the thing about that that Martin Luther King one-man show, it really got me in the theater. And that fella is still doing that stuff. His name is Barry Scott.
He's all right.
Yeah, it was, and the reason I bring that up is Mark, Barry, and the rest of you, but them specifically because they got thriving privately owned independent theater companies. How do we get more collaboration with the school systems, with teenagers? Because really, if Sean's making a good point, like if we don't like Tower stuff, this generation is going to be raised on Tower. Like for me and Regas and our generation, we actually could go to TPAC and see some of what we call real theater. And I agree with you, Mark, that's a terrible thing to say it like that, but we can see real theater. But how do we create more collaborations between educational bodies?
Yeah, I think that's really that's where the crisis is. That if we can get to teachers and students, okay, and not go in there as educational theater, because that's off-putting to me. Okay, I mean, I produce.
Seems like it's gonna be boring.
Yeah. It sounds bad to start with, you know.
Well, preparation is what it is. Preparation is key. Meaning you need to have a good grant writer, which
Let's find one of those.
It's really difficult to. I'll be honest with you. I get folks to come do stuff for me, and it's like they're doing me a favor. And if they run across some controversy, they run away. Back off. You know what I mean? Not all of them, but you have to have a very good grant writer who's efficient at getting things done in a timely manner, writing it properly. I'm sure you've been in positions for grants, and you've seen another theater company across town get 25 times more money than you. Because
it's demoralizing.
Because they're established.
Right.
And I'm a taxpayer. We have a place in Pittsburgh that takes 1% of the sales tax that goes towards the arts, and across the street from me, I get, they have all these different rules and stipulations. You know what I mean? But I'll get $5,000, and they'll get $90,000.
Right.
Meaning that their janitors getting paid more than what I get paid.
The disparity is demoralizing.
Yeah.
And I'm a commissioner on the board for the state arts commission, and I see the disparity. So part of my thing has been I don't even want to get into the hunt for 5,000.
Right.
And I have to jump through all these hoops.
Right.
But in spite of that, now we're doing that, and we just got a grant. It's just $4,000, a matching grant. But that's the game we have to play.
Yeah.
Just to get some momentum. But it takes for years, like Carpetbag Theater, one of the oldest black theaters, in the state. I've watched them, have excellent artwork and get just a little bit of the pie.
We're bringing them to the center in February.
Really?
We need to bring them
Linda
here.
Paris Bailey.
Yeah, Linda, we're doing.
She's amazing.
Between the Ballad and the Blues, they're coming in to do
great
it
piece.
for a weekend at the February.
I agree with the grant thing because I just worked with the theater company, local Tennessee Women's Theater Project, and I did a tour with them the last school semester. It was a $10,000 grant from the Nissan Foundation, and it was solely to take a production to as many schools as the grant would allow. And so I ended up going to maybe almost 20 some odd schools to perform. And it was a 1 hour, one woman show about the Little Rock Nine. And it was
Great show.
very receptive to the student bodies, and it was all kinds of from middle school on up to high school. We even did one college at Austin P. And I think they got in that grant writing is their niche now, because they do that a lot, and they have, it's a great thing for them, and they've learned how to work it. And since they got it that year, they are going to apply every year, and they know what to do and how to maneuver within those walls.
And once you get in on a grant,
you're in.
then you can, then
Yeah.
you're in, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, how much longer you want to go?
Oh, that was the last question.
Okay, all right,
All right.
okay. All right, well, I want to thank, it's been an honor being on this panel. Least talented person up here, but I appreciate
I wouldn't say that.
being up here.
It's
And
not true.
Great.
I've learned a lot, so hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was good.